All right, Barak Tehel Bashim Shai Bashim Rakha Kodash. Welcome to part 2 of a re-interview with High Priest Ahrayah's nephew. And pretty much, the first time I watched about 22 minutes and 20 seconds of the video, and I did like a little quick something on it, and then I just finished watching another 5 minutes, so I was like about the 27 minute and some change. And now he's going into Deuteronomy 28, Isaiah 28, about precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. He's going into historical books of things that historians, have made, statements that historians have made. And he was saying that many of the Let me let this go by real quick. Yeah, he said many of the English words that we see in the Bible didn't really exist back then, during the time when the Hebrew was written. And he's saying that a lot of camps now, they shun the Hebrew, which they do. But we don't. We don't shun the Hebrew. We don't shun the Greek. We encourage brothers to look things up in the Hebrew and the Greek, because you'll get a better understanding of the words that are written. But that still doesn't negate, that the curses fall upon the true Israelites. And this was set up as a sign, for the 12 tribes, and that these curses would be on them for a sign, and to their children, to let the world know who the Israelites are. You can't negate that. Okay, well, this English word don't mean that. It really means, yeah, but the overall consensus of the scriptures in Deuteronomy 28 is that those curses came upon the Israelites. Now, as concerning language, when we go into the Apocrypha, into Ecclesiasticus, which is the prologue of Ecclesiasticus, this is Yahushua, or Jesus, the son of Sirach, and he said he was pretty much drawn to take careful labor in interpreting the things that were written in the Hebrew into a different dialect and to a different language, right? And this is what he said concerning that. He said that and had gotten therein good judgment, was drawn on also himself to write something pertaining to learning and wisdom, to the intent that those which are desirous to learn and are addicted to these things might profit much more in living according to the law, right? Because the scriptures do say that we would be speaking a different language, but the Lord would, revive the real Hebrew language in these times. It tells us that in the book of Isaiah 19. It says, wherefore let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention. Why? Because the thing about it is, when you're reading these things in different languages outside of the original Hebrew and the Greek, it's not going to have the same impact as it would in its own language. It says, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words. This is why the best thing to do, which we encourage brothers to do, sisters also, to look up words, which these other camps don't. They discourage people, their congregation, from looking those words up in the original language, so you can get a better understanding. Because even he's saying here that please pardon him when he came short of some words, to try to convey the message to the best of his ability in a different language than what was written, which we have labored to interpret. So this is a labor, and they had to labor to interpret these things, because if you speak a different language, if you speak two different languages, and the original language that you speak, you're trying to convey a message from that language into another language, sometimes there are, different understandings when it's written in his own language. Like, for instance, in Spanish, there's certain jokes in Spanish that when you tell them in Spanish, they're funny and they rhyme and they're funny. But then when you try to interpret it in the English, the impact of the or the comedic part of it is lost in translation. That's why they have a term called lost in translation, because when you translate it into another language, it doesn't have the same impact. So he's saying that please pardon him, where he's come, he labored to interpret it, and he's come short in some words to interpret it. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue. Notice it said translated, not transliterated. Translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. So it doesn't have the same impact. So this is why you have to go back into the original language, which we do. But he's saying that we don't. But no, that's not true. So this guy is kind of painting like a broad stroke on all the different camps, and we don't discourage brothers from looking up words in the Hebrew and the Greek. Matter of fact, people out there that use the blue letter and go into the Greek and the Hebrew, mainly go into it because first and foremost, Elder Pastor went into it. He found the blue letter Bible, and we've been pushing that to go into the original language to get a better understanding. This is why, when you're doing the lesson, you're breaking certain things down. You say, let me see what they say what this word means in the blue letter. Let's go to another translation to see if that other translation, brings it out even, more clear. And in some cases they do it, in other cases they don't. Sometimes when you go into the other translations, they botch it up, they go totally off. But sometimes it hits home even more, than the KJV. It just depends on the scriptures, And as far as because these guys are looking for like evidence of everything. There is no evidence with faith. Faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So either you have the faith and you believe, or you don't. When the Lord asked Peter, "Who do you say I am?" and he said, "You're the Messiah, the Son of the living power," what did the Lord say? "Oh, blessed are you, Peter, because you read that in a book. Blessed are you, Peter, because you went to the lexicon, or you went to the grammatical, writings of this particular verse, and you broke it down, and somebody broke it down to you and you understood it." No. He said, "Blessed are you, for flesh and blood has not revealed this unto you, but my heavenly Father which is in heaven." So some things are spiritual, other things are physical. But the carnal man can't receive the things of the spirit because they're spiritually discerned. So it says, and not only these have not the same force in them, and not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets, dealing with Deuteronomy, dealing with Isaiah 28, Deuteronomy 28, and the rest of the books, meaning from Genesis all the way to the Apocrypha, right, in the Old Testament. And the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. You see? So this is why you would have to go back to those original languages. So we don't discourage that. So when you go to Isaiah 28 is talking about how you break the Bible down. The Bible is a puzzle, it's an enigma. And you have to know how to break the puzzle down. And the puzzle is broken down into pieces and bits. This is why I said here a little and there a little. But also when you go into that scripture of Isaiah 28, it also speaks about how the precepts and the scriptures came upon Jake here a little and there a little. Just like you break the book down, so did the words of the book also take hold of Jake that way, in that same fashion. This is why you read Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28 are curses that came upon us if we disobeyed the Lord. The curses were not relegated to just one captivity. The curses would follow us. It said that in the 45th chapter. Let's get that real quick. Deuteronomy 28 and 45. So I don't know who this guy is speaking to. He said, well, they get stuck on that, I don't know who he's speaking about or who he's speaking to, but obviously he ain't speaking to the right people, because anyone that has studied even a little bit and has gone into the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, would be able to break this down. You know, Deuteronomy 28 and 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee. So in other words, everywhere you go, these curses would follow you. They would pursue you, right? And overtake thee, meaning what? There's no way to escape it, no escaping this, right? They would be on your ass everywhere you go. Till thou what? Be destroyed. What does it mean to be destroyed? Not to be killed so much, even though that happened also, but be destructured. When you read the scriptures in Deuteronomy 28, it tells us that we would pretty much cease from our heritage. Because if a nation is destroyed, that means that they're destructured, they're broken apart. You know, does that mean that they're gone? No, that means that they're still there, but they're just broken up. They're broken up into pieces. And those pieces have to be put back together. That's what the word destroy means, destructure. You know, that structure that you had no longer resembles what it used to look like because it's been picked apart. It's been taken apart, right? It says, destroyed because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And this is the reason why these things happen, because we did not follow the guideline. And there's a bigger, greater purpose for that. It says, and they, meaning what? The curses that are written in this book shall be upon thee for what? For a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So no matter where you would go, how would you be able to identify the Israelites? By the curses that would befall them, the curses that would come upon them. This is how you identify. This is just those two verses right there alone, you know, proves that the curses were upon Jake, line upon line, here a little and there a little. And this is why we go to the Old Testament, to the New Testament, to the Apocrypha, hit this precept in Genesis and go all the way to Revelation, you know, to break down the enigma or the puzzle, because the Lord said that there would be a time when the book would be sealed. But at the end, those seals will be removed from the book, and you would be able to piece the puzzle together. And not everyone could do that. This is why the Lord said, I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. Because now the knowledge and understanding has been opened. Why? Because the Spirit from on high, the Spirit of the Lord entered into them and they became living. Because the nations didn't do it. The nations didn't put our minds at ease. The nations didn't tell us that we were the Israelites. The nations, you know, didn't, you know, establish, you know, who we were as a people. So the Lord did it. You know, they were just happy that we were in that low condition, that low state. But so the Lord was the one that put the Spirit on men to get into the scriptures, to understand. And of course, there had to be stepping stones. When the truth first came out, Jake just didn't wake up and pick up the Bible. Oh, we're Israelites for the most part. They followed the curriculum of the small hats at one point. Then as they were following the curriculum of the small hats, they started to figure out that we are the Israelites. And then there are scriptures that break it down. Deuteronomy 28, Genesis 49, Deuteronomy 33, First Chronicles, the 5th chapter, and many other scriptures that give descriptions and characteristics of the Israelites. Now, just the scripture alone, where Yahushua said that you are the salt of the earth, that doesn't apply to those small hats. How are they the salt of the earth? Now, they are the thieves of the earth. They are the culture vultures of the earth. You know, they are the vampires and the, you know, and the parasites of the earth that suck everybody else's, you know, goods out of them and then discard them when they no longer need them. And those are the characteristics of the Edomites, the destroyers of this world. You know, it doesn't apply to them. None of those curses in the book of Deuteronomy apply to them. Now, you had this individual by the name of Arthur Koestler, who was a small hat himself. He found out by doing research that they go back to the K, to the Ras, you know, K Serach Sarah, you know. For you brothers that know what I'm talking about, you could put it on the comment board. For those that don't know, you know, when you go back to them, he found out that they are not the people, and if they were the people, they would have to be a 13th tribe. And he mentioned within that book, out of the research that he did, tracing back these people that call themselves the J to the double O S's, you know, that when you had these so-called ghettos in Europe, those ghettos were self-imposed. The scriptures never said you will self-impose, the curses upon you. They said the curses will follow you. They will be upon you. Not that we would put them on ourselves, but they would follow us. They would be upon us because it's a direct curse from the Lord. So anywhere we went, them curses were like heat-seeking missiles to the spirit of Israelites. And no matter what nation we were found in, no matter what we looked like, those nations would be there to overtake us and to destroy us and to keep us in this low state. This is why every time you try to get out, they pull you right back in. Why? Because those curses would be on us until the Lord pulled the curses off of us. And those curses will not be pulled off until the Lord Yahushua comes back and delivers us. So these guys are not looking to that because they are not spiritual and they're not a part of the elect. But what they are doing is they're helping the devil and trying to destructure and break apart this truth. But if this counsel be of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of the Most High, it will not come to naught. And you're only going to get the ones that the Lord doesn't want. You have to remember that. You're not going to get the ones the Lord don't want, because it says if it were possible, they will deceive the very elect. But being that they are the elect, they will not be deceived. They will not fall for the okie doke. They will not be bamboozled, so to speak. They will not fall for the deception, because there will be something in them. No matter how good the argument may be, there will be something in them that will allow them to get around it based off what the scriptures say. So, these individuals don't know what's going on, man. But it is what it is. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. If I get anything else, any more inspiration, then I'll do another lesson, Lord's will. Shalom.